At a gathering. There was a bunch of believers there. Our children were playing with some other children, and there were some other adults there watching, but my wife and I weren't there, and our one of our sons got into a little scuffle with another boy that was there. And after that happened, one of the children came running to me and mentioned, "Oh, your son was punching somebody, and it was kind of a big deal." And so, of course, I immediately went over to see what was going on. And there was already a bunch of parents gathered there, and my son was standing to the kind of the outside of the circle. The parents were talking. There's a bunch of other children around, some older ones, some younger ones, and they were all talking about what my son had done. And my son was really visibly upset. His face was red. His eyes were red. He had like tears coming down his eyes, and he was talking with a lot of aggression and anger. And he's like 12 years old. Calm himself down, but he was so upset about the whole situation. He was really struggling. So then at that point, some other parents came over, and we brought in the other kid that was involved. But long story short, what had happened was there was a chair that was flung out in front of my son. It hit his shin. This caused a scuffle, and this ended up being a great learning experience for everyone. And what happened was I was just taking the opportunity to teach my son that, obviously he didn't feel like he was in the wrong. But sometimes when somebody wrongs us, they're the one that's feeling wronged about it, believe it or not. Kind of crazy, but if you think like the other person, they're feeling wronged, and that's why they're upset with you. So I took the opportunity with my son to just explain to him that if you apologize first, you tell them sorry, then it's going to start to set the tone into a way of like healing and fixing the situation. But he was so upset, I don't think he was really hearing me. Mm-hmm. The other kid that was involved, he came over and he actually apologized to my son first, and then my son did end up apologizing to him. After this was all said and done, I talked to the parents separately. Some were the parents of the boy, and then some were just some other parents in the leadership positions at the group that we were at. But the cool thing was, we all as men discussed, the situation and how we can all learn from it, and how the fact is that, children are learning. Mm-hmm. There's no hurt feelings here amongst the adults, and as adults, we're taking this to our children and explaining to them that, hey, listen, sometimes we're going to run into these situations, but as we learn through them and we have a forgiving and loving heart, then we're going to become stronger through this. There's no sense in bearing bitterness and bearing that burden on yourself. And if something happened and you were wrong, just admit it. Don't carry that shame and guilt around and let it eat at you. Mm-hmm. But I want to give my wife an opportunity to speak from her perspective, because sometimes, as you know, moms, okay, they can start to get really defensive over their children and say, "Oh, my son would never do that. He's not that kind of boy." And we believe that about our son, but at the same time, we know that no one's perfect. Yeah. And we know that if we are not allowing him to become his best, then we're allowing him to give into weakness, and we don't want any of that weakness in any of our children. Yeah. And you shouldn't either. So go ahead.
Well, I think it's the thing, for parents in general, your human tendency is to be partial. Your human tendency is to want to coddle, to want to protect. And a lot of times it's one of the worst things we can do for our children. So, naturally, when you first initially hear, your son did something, you immediately, my feathers anyway, get a little fluffy, and I gotta woo, calm down. But because you want to create warriors, you want to nurture warriors, you don't want to coddle your child into being a wimp. You don't want to coddle your child into being weak. And a strength is to acknowledge, I messed up. but guess what?
Right.
I can change this. I can become better through this. And, thankfully, praise Yah, that's what happened. Actually, it was just a day, I think, after that happened, our son mentioned, hey, I want to be baptized. And then had mentioned after that, the baptism, he's like, I'm a new person now. You
Yeah.
know, and so he felt cleansed from that outburst of anger.
Yeah.
He felt like he's becoming better. And so what would have happened if I would have been taken the defensive position of, don't you say anything about my child, it's your child's fault, he started it, my kid was just reacting. No,
Right.
that's not what we do. We're not called to do it. And we can do that even with ourselves, even in our marriages, like taking responsibility and saying, well, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel that way.
Yeah.
I want to make you feel respected. I want to make you feel appreciated. In every single relationship, if we take that aspect of humility, and not trying to justify ourselves, or not trying to justify other people, but just trying to see things from the other person's perspective, which goes back to loving your neighbor as yourself, right?
That's right.
Or loving your spouse as yourself, even.
So if you want to be strong, and I hope you do, so I'm going to ask you, do you want to be strong? Do you want to take the position of actual power? And the Messiah shows us that that is through humility. Humility will beat pride all through history and all from here on into the future. So take the aspect of humility, look at them, hey, we're sorry for the situation, we're sorry what happened, everything wasn't handled the way it should have been. Please forgive us. We'll take care of it. We're learning. Listen, this is what happened too, and take it how you will, but this is our side of it. We're not here to be like that. We're here to bless people, help people, and love people. Listen, if you lead like this and you teach your children, and it's part of your family, men, the way you're going to pour into your family and the way you're going to lead and teach them is like, hey, we are here for the weak. We're here for those who are down and out, the widows, the orphans, the moms who are out there, by themselves, doing, taking care of their families, because the fatherless, like,
Yeah.
men have left their post. They've become a group of just complete losers out there who are just off doing drugs and a bunch of stupidity. They can't even work jobs. They can't even provide. They can't even be a financial father, let alone a spiritual leader, a strong force for their family to teach them the right way to go. So for those of you who recognize that, you really have to step it up even more, because you have to compensate for all of the negative influence all around. And so if you're a dad, I want to call you to take your role seriously with your wife and with your children, that the fact that you are a dad is literally, you're ordained from the Almighty to be a leader and to pour into them and to give it your best every day. Every day is a gift. Every day is an opportunity. There's no day that you should be like taking a day off as a dad and as a husband. Show up for your family. May the Almighty Yah bless you.